Got some new fan art for you guys. So as many of you may know, I did a guest video on Professor Stick's channel yesterday about Jonestown and how messed up that interesting little cult was. There's a link to the video on the card in the corner if you want to check that out. Also, it's on my own channel for posterity. You guys should check out part 1 if you haven't seen it, but this video will stand on its own. So I decided to do a review of how they stand up to the bite model. I consulted somebody who knows a lot more about them than I do over a voice call, and I put it on my podcast channel. So if you guys want to take a look at that, you can check the link in the description or hit the card in the corner for that. I actually went back and modified a couple of the results to more accurately reflect where they stand on the bite model, so the video is mostly about us discussing the cult. After reviewing what we decided, I'm going to go through a few little fun facts about them. Okay, let's get into it. One more thing I wanted to mention before we get into it. In part 1, I implied that the defector who killed the people on the plane had joined the Concerned Relatives group and stayed in it for over a year, while staying loyal to Jones the entire time. As it turns out, the defector is actually just somebody who'd followed Leo Ryan back from the compound that day. So now that that's been corrected, where does the People's Temple stand as far as the bite model goes? They are very extreme with a lot of this stuff, so let's take a look through it. Here's the behavior control category. Promote dependence and obedience, 21. Modify behavior with rewards and punishments, 21. Dictate where and with whom you live, 21. Restrict or control sexuality, 21. Control clothing and hairstyle, 1. Regulate what and how much you eat and drink, 3. Deprive you of 7 to 9 hours of sleep, 8. Exploit you financially, 34. Now I just have to justify that 34 because I said that most American cults aren't going to hit 34. But this was kind of a communist utopia. So I feel like that is the definition of the most extreme you can get as far as controlling finances goes. Restrict leisure time and activities, 13. Require you to seek permission for major decisions, 13. Behavior control got a total of 156. That is insanely high. Now on to information control. Deliberately withhold and distort information, 21. Forbid you from speaking with ex-members and critics, 21. Discourage access to non-cult sources of information, 21. Divide information into insider versus outsider doctrine, 13. Generate and use propaganda extensively, 34. I'll talk about exactly what he did to justify that 34 in a little bit. Use information gained in confession sessions against you, 2. Gaslight to make you doubt your own memory, 3. Require you to report thoughts, feelings, and activities to superiors, 13. Encourage you to spy and report on others' misconduct, 13. That one got 141, and on to thought control. Instill black versus white, us versus them, good versus evil thinking, 21. Change your identity, possibly even your name, 3. Use loaded language and cliches to stop complex thought, 13. Induce hypnotic or trance states to indoctrinate, 21. Teach thought-stopping techniques to prevent critical thoughts, 13. Allow only positive thoughts, 5. Use excessive meditation, singing, prayer, and chanting to block thoughts, 21. Reject rational analysis, critical thinking, and doubt, 13. That one was 110. Now for the final category, emotional control. Instill irrational fears of questioning or leaving the group, 21. Label some emotions as evil, worldly, sinful, or wrong, 5. Teach emotion-stopping techniques to prevent anger or homesickness, 13. Promote feelings of guilt, shame, and unworthiness, 13. Shower you with praise and attention or love bomb you, 21. Threaten your friends and family, 21. Shun you if you disobey or disbelieve, 21. Teach that there's no happiness or peace outside the group, 21. They got a 136 on emotional control, so that was 156 for behavior, 141 for information, 110 for thought, and 136 for emotional control. The reason I like the bite extremism scale of using the Fibonacci sequence to estimate their place is because it's increasing by a lot every time they go up a level in extremism. So if we were just putting them on a scale from 1 to 10, the point difference between a moderate Methodist group and the Westboro Baptist Church isn't as pronounced. The more extreme the group gets, the more obvious less it becomes. There are a number of different options I could have chosen: doubling, counting by tens, etc. But by using the Fibonacci sequence instead, it's harder for our brains to fit it into a pattern that we understand. There's no linear path straight to how extreme one group is over another. That's why I use Fibonacci for reference. And I break it up into different categories so we can see how extreme they are with different things. The Westboro Baptist Church had an overall score of 275. Yeah, I went back and recounted what I put down, and apparently I miscounted originally. I thought it was 249, but no, it's 275. 35 in behavior, 91 in information control, 50 in thought control, and 99 in emotional control. So we can see they're the worst about emotional control and information control. Jehovah's Witnesses were at a 344 total, 67 in behavior control, 110 in information control, 73 in thought control, and 94 in emotion control. So with this scale, we can see that Jehovah's Witnesses are more extreme than Westboro in some areas and less in others, and that they really aren't that much more extreme than them on most things. They just do a lot of really oppressive stuff. But since I use the Fibonacci sequence, the more extreme things they do, the more pronounced it becomes. The Jonestown cult is at a total amount of 679, and we can see that they were generally pretty extreme with all of it. But they were most extreme with behavior control and information control. Things like controlling sexuality, financial exploitation, requiring you to seek permission for major decisions, generating and using propaganda extensively, and withholding or distorting information. So that's my defense of the bite extremism scale, and my rationale for using the Fibonacci numbers over any other pointing system. Ultimately, the scale is somewhat capped. There are 35 criteria, and with a max of 21 for each criteria, the cap is 735. I'm not saying I won't add new criteria to it, change the existing ones, or give the occasional 34. That'll happen from time to time, in special cases. I'll try to keep revising the criteria to an absolute minimum, so we don't have to go back through and reanalyze cults that have already been analyzed. And for reference, I'll be putting my analyses on my website pretty soon for closer inspection at telltaleatheist.com. Now that we've gotten through that, it's time for 13 facts about the Jonestown cult. Fact number 1. As I mentioned in my other video, Jim Jones didn't use Kool-Aid, he used Flavor Aid, even though he inspires the saying, "Don't drink the Kool-Aid." 2. He's quoted as saying, "What you need to believe in is what you can see. If you see me as your friend, I'll be your friend. If you see me as your father, I'll be your father. If you see me as your savior, I'll be your savior. If you see me as your God, I'll be your God." 3. Jones was called dad or father by all members, children and adults. 4. On December 13th, 1973, Jones was arrested and charged with soliciting a man for sex in a movie theater restroom. 5. He claimed he was the only heterosexual man on Earth, and all other men were either bi or gay, but they repressed it. He used that claim to get all the congregants to f*** him, claiming he was helping them discover their homosexuality. 6. He banned all sexual activity outside of marriage, for everybody except himself. The members were allowed to do it outside of marriage, but only if it was with him. 7. One of his biggest inspirations was Father Divine, who led the controversial International Peace Mission movement, and who also claimed he was the second coming of Jesus. When Father Divine died, Jones tried to convince his church to follow him. 8. He claimed to be the reincarnation of Gandhi, Father Divine, Jesus, Gautama Buddha, and Vladimir Lenin. So he was alive at the same time as Father Divine, but he claimed to be his reincarnation. Just suspend critical thinking in doubt. Don't ask questions. It makes a lot more sense that way. 9. Jones paid off the government of Guyana, which in turn gave him a ton of concessions, like allowing mass migration for his followers, making it difficult for defectors to leave the country, making it difficult for opposers to enter the country, and even allowed them to import weapons illegally. 10. He held sermons constantly and had speakers set up through the commune, which broadcast either live or recorded sermons all day, every day, while people worked. 11. At its peak, Jonestown housed just under 1,000 people. 12. Children were raised communally and often only allowed to see their birth parents for a short time at night. 33 children were born in the community nursery. 13. Jones said he was an atheist in a recorded FBI conversation. I'll end the facts on that one because it's one of the most interesting, and I have a few things to say about that. First, Alex Jones famously recently said this whole thing was just a character he plays. He doesn't actually believe any of that stuff, but he said that under something of duress. If the court really thought he believed half the stuff he says he does on TV, there's no chance of getting his kids back. It's possible it really is a character. I have no way of knowing. All I'm saying is that I'm not going to take it at face value because of the circumstances. If he came out in public tomorrow and said on his show, "This was just a character I've been playing," I'd believe it. But saying it in a courtroom is a completely different situation. I kind of view it the same way with Jones. It was an FBI interview. Who knows what kind of plans or reasons he might have had to claim to be an atheist. That's my first point. Here's my second point. Communism and atheism commonly went side by side back in the 70s and 80s. China and Russia were trying out this unique brand of communism which cuts religion out of society completely. To this day, as far as I know, China is still nationally atheist. Of course, the people have their own personal religions that they don't talk about, but there was a time when religion was outlawed in various communist countries. So it isn't really a surprise to find that this guy was communist and atheist. And my final point is that atheism isn't like a religion at all. We aren't a unified group with unified beliefs and teachings and doctrine. We don't have a book we follow or any of that. Literally, the only topic on which all atheists are unified across the world is a lack of belief in God. That's what the word means. We all come from different religious and political backgrounds. One can say that Islam breeds extremism, and there would be an argument for it because it talks about conquering and killing in their holy book. But like I said, atheism doesn't have a holy book or any kind of dogma connected to it. The only connection atheists have to each other is a cultural and societal connection. So you can't blame atheism for breeding extremists in the same way you can blame Islam for breeding extremists. All that being said, I feel like it was still important to mention that he claimed to be an atheist in an FBI interview. Anyways, that's all I've got for you guys. Follow me on Patreon, Discord, and all social media. And follow my science channel and my podcast. Thanks for watching, guys.